All right, what's up guys? Chase here. Hopefully, or maybe by now, you have seen our most recent release, which is our summer sipper package. It is an absolute, and I would say a very, very popular package every year. That is a Venture Series summer sipper that contains, let's see, this year, and last year I think too, the 2020 Natty Boy Sauvignon Blanc. That's a Pet Nat Sauvignon Blanc, delicious, screams summertime. The 2020 Buffalo, which is 100% Cinsault, our original chilled red, an amazing summertime wine, obviously extremely popular. And then also our 2020 Sinada, which is a little bit different this year. That's a Grenache Petit Verdot Mourvedre blend, still made the same way. That's our original, like, sort of Carhartt Venture original natural wine, natural red, and that's also chilled. So delicious, amazing stuff. I think a lot of you know those wines, and so today I'm here to talk about something a little bit more special. I shouldn't say more special, I guess, but like additionally special. Is that a thing? But that is the Carhartt Venture Summer Sipper Expansion Pack, which, if you want to be a boss, you go with that. That's 6 different bottles of wine, and I'm going to talk about three additional bottles, which is 3 brand new wines for Carhartt Venture in the Carhartt Venture lineup. The 2020 Cáscara de Albariño, which is a skin fermented Albariño. We'll talk about that. The 2020 Fhuquette Rouge, which is a sparkling Piquette. And the 2020 Mission, which is 100% Mission variety. All really exciting stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and open this Albariño and talk about that first. I didn't want to do that ahead of time. I wanted you guys to see me actually open it. So, serious color. That's like it's kind of an interesting color, but for me it's kind of a little bit of a sunshine wine there. Albariño, here's the deal. Albariño, a variety that you can get amazing product from really all over. But talk about Spain. I mean, this is a variety that you can buy amazing classic Albariños for next to nothing, for $20, $25, no problem, right? And so in thinking about something like that, I was just kind of, in thinking about that and then thinking about making Albariño, I wasn't particularly excited to make what I would call a classic Albariño, because to me it felt like why would you want to buy something like that from Carhartt when you could go buy what I would consider a classic style wine? So in making this, I wanted to make it inherently Carhartt. I wanted to make it Carhartt Venture. I wanted to make it something different and unique to us. So got this fruit. This fruit's coming from Santa Ynez Vineyard, which is over in Happy Canyon. Harvested a very small amount of that. We did about a ton of Albariño and basically brought that in. Half of it we did, pressed it, got the juice, put that into barrel and did a barrel ferment, completely natural. This is a natural wine, 0 additions of anything. So we did about half as a barrel fermentation native. The other half we split into 2 parts. So essentially took that other 50%, split it into 25 and 25. 25% of it did a carbonic fermentation, so literally sealed off whole cluster in a stainless steel tank, completely sealed off for about 2.5 weeks. That fermented untouched. Just gassed it one time and then left it. So that did a carbonic fermentation in there, and then after that carbonic fermentation we pressed that off. And that actually for a while aged separately till we ended up blending it with all of this. And then the other 25%, we actually crushed up that fruit, so did a little bit of foot stomping on that fruit, put that into a separate container, and that fermented on the skins for 7 days, for 1 week. So you have literally a pressed, skin, just juice, you have a skin fermentation, and you have a carbonic fermentation, so kind of two semi-skin ferments. That's what's creating this color. I mean, just this kind of like extreme yellow. It's all that contact with the skin during fermentation. And again, all of that done completely native, no additions, nothing. And then that wine was bottled unfined and unfiltered, which is why you have this hazy look. And it created this this is something I was completely unsure of in the beginning, but it created this really, honestly, this amazing wine. Check that out in the glass right there. Definitely hazy, kind of almost like a light peach color. I just got this, again, thinking about peach, almost like fresh peach nose, almost like a little bit of tangerine skin, pear. There's definitely some florals in here. Just an extremely, extremely interesting wine. And something for me that puts this style of Albariño completely in its own territory. And that was the idea here, is to have something, to have, you know, in Albariño to begin with, for a lot of you, is a variety that you might not drink that much of, but to put it into a place where this would be something that you would, you know, you're not going to find anywhere. Not over the top, but a little bit of, you know, a lot of you probably haven't experienced white tannin before, but tannin, just like it is in red, can be in white wines. And it can be varying degrees of intensity. You have a little bit of white skin tannin in here, which is really nice. I think it adds some body. I think it adds some texture, but it's definitely not over the top. You have beautiful natural acidity. This is a really fun wine. Again, like a lot of the venture releases, it's meant to be stimulating. It's meant to be thought-provoking. It's meant to sort of push the boundaries of a lot of the wines that you might generally drink, or particularly white wines. But I think it's got an amazing amount of freshness. And I think this is just like a perfect summertime wine, and something to sort of dip your toes into the orange wine category. I wouldn't call this like super extreme orange wine, but I mean, you're looking at the color, it's definitely different. So just thought I would get on here and give you guys a little bit of background on something like that. I think it's a very, very fun wine. All right, next up, bear with me here, it's gonna be fun. Okay, Fhuquette Rouge. Open slowly. This is, you know, some amount of volatility, particularly the warmer it is. So all these wines, guys, we're serving chilled, all of them. You see that foam kind of going up? I'm being real careful there, just letting a little bit out at a time. Really trying to, this is gonna foam over. Open it, if you've shaken it up or anything, you can always put this bottle inside a sink in a little bowl, and anything that actually ends up coming over the sides, you'll catch in that bowl and you can repurpose. It's a little natural wine secret there. So I'm gonna be quick because we're on this video. It's coming over, just putting it in a glass, and that's how it's done. I should have brought a little champagne stopper. Buy yourself some champagne stoppers, guys, unless you're just gonna drink the whole bottle quickly, which you should anyways. But you can buy a little champagne stopper that goes in here and clips under this lip right here, and it'll hold the pressure. And if you're only gonna have a couple glasses, it'll last, you know, at least 24 hours at least. But check that color out. So this is a Fhuquette, you guys. It's something that we released at our party last week. It was the first time a lot of people had tried it. What is Fhuquette? Basically, Fhuquette is sort of what I call a wine beverage. It's not really a wine per se. This is basically what we did with this wine, and what people do with Fhuquette is it's using the pressing. So like when we take in red or white fruit and we take those grapes and we press them, a lot of times that grape skin, I mean, most of the time, that'll be thrown away. That'll be made into compost, a variety of different things. So that's actually taking that grape skin that's pretty much used up, and we're putting it inside a tank. We're adding water to that tank, and we are rehydrating those skins. That water is then extracting whatever's left in those skins, and we are literally making, then after that's done, that might be a 1 to 4 day process, then we're literally re-fermenting that liquid, sort of water wine, and that liquid is then, obviously it has, you know, much lower amount of sugar, varying degrees, usually much lower acidity, higher pH, things like that. So it's a little bit off in terms of the chemistry, but we're re-fermenting that liquid and then kind of seeing where that shakes out at, and then making adjustments like adding in wine to replace acidity or texture or anything like that, to make this, make it a little bit more balanced. What we did with this though is I actually used the pressings of rosé fruit. So it's made from Grenache, but instead of using skins that had already been fermented, we actually, when we pressed for rosé, instead of throwing those skins out, I did the exact same thing, added the water, obviously in a very specific amount, and then that water steeped on those skins for 4 days, drained it off, pressed the skins again, and made this puppy right here. Then it goes through fermentation, bottled at the tail end, just like our pet nats, under pressure with a crown cap, and that's what creates this wonderful wine beverage, which is about 7% alcohol. So, you know, I jokingly use this term. It's kind of like Fhuquette's kind of like the White Claw of wine. A lot, you know, that's a common sort of idea now, because it is. I mean, the cool part about this is it's a completely natural product. I mean, there's literally not one single thing done to this in terms of like additions or subtractions or anything. Like, this is as pure as it gets. It's completely unfiltered. You can see that hazy part of it. It's really amazing, and it's so fresh. This is more like blood orange, hibiscus, pomegranate, red fruit, kind of tart, really fun. Sort of Jolly Rancher. It's just very, very fresh. If you guys ever drink hard kombucha, a lot of people liken it to hard kombucha. It's just a delicious, delicious, borderline dangerous beverage. This is just so easy to consume. It's just one of those things that you could drink the whole bottle, no problem. And so I'm really excited to have something like this in the lineup. And I think all of our people will be too once you try it. It's going to be gone before you know it, so don't sleep on this one. Literally meant to be, again, stimulating, intriguing, thought-provoking in terms of, you know, what can we actually do in terms of wine, what is possible to be made from grapes. That might be different from what you've classically had before, but at the same time, this doesn't need to be one of those wines that you dwell on the, you know, various layers and the secondary characteristics and all this stuff. This is a fun wine to drink by the pool, at the beach. It's obviously it's a natural wine, so you know, if that's something that is top of mind for you, then that's great. It's a fun wine. That's really all that I have to say about this. In closing. All right. Moving along. This is about how fast I drink wines at dinner too, so move on to the next one. Mission. So this is quite an amazing wine and quite an amazing opportunity for me. Check that out. Mission, baby. This is a variety. You guys might have a little rinse here. So these grapes come from Barbareño Vineyard, which is in Tepiscay, so up Foxen Canyon, like north of Foxen Winery, kind of out by Ken Volk, if you guys ever went to Ken Volk. Really, you know, across the bridge, that's kind of that area of where it is. These vines were planted, the majority of these vines were planted in the early 1950s. The Mission variety, also called Pais, was one of the earliest varieties brought over. It's still reasonably existent in certain parts of Europe. And it's one of those, it was one of, obviously, hence its name Mission. It was one of the earliest varieties that was brought over and propagated and planted alongside the missions. And so there's still, you know, plant material around. And again, in the 1950s, this was planted in somebody's backyard, propagated into about 1/4 of an acre of vines, most of which are head trained. They're entirely dry farmed. It's really an amazing opportunity. We farm that vineyard ourselves. So this is just a gentleman that has the vines and doesn't want to be necessarily heavily involved in the farming aspect. So we go in there, we do all the farming, and then we get to take the fruit. And it's really an amazing opportunity. We're super lucky to be able to to have that as an option and work with this fruit. Mission variety, mission vines. I mean, these vines have trunks, some of them this big around. The clusters are huge, not super tight, really loose, and kind of like, particularly last year with the heat that we had, throws like a huge spectrum of ripening. So just kind of all over the place, I would say. It's not necessarily doesn't make super dark wines. I don't know if you can see that color. It's kind of similar to the Buffalo, just kind of like a beautiful ruby. Again, unfine, unfiltered, a little bit hazy. Not as much as these other two, but a little bit like that. Spent 6 months in neutral oak. Nothing added, nothing taken away. We made 2 barrels of this. 2 barrels of this, 5 barrels of the Fhuquette, 2 barrels of the Albariño. I mean, these are all small lot wines. Just a really, really fun, wild nose. It's kind of like wild blackberry, but like slightly underripe. Like it's not like, this isn't like a super dark brooding nose by any means. Almost like, because you kind of am almost smelling those, like that vine quality, right? Like if you were down in like, I don't know, in an area where you had a lot of sort of that green growth. It's got this really, really wild aromatics. Again, to reiterate, drinking all of these wines chilled. That's how I particularly like them. You know, it's a warm day today. That's what I would do. Again, beautiful acidity retention, wonderful wine, wild berry, a little bit of that green fruit, a little bit of spice coming from some of the stem inclusion, but just honestly, an incredible wine, super fun. Not something we've ever done before. I think these wines are going to start to become semi-cult wines in that it's just, there's not going to be that much of it. This vineyard is only so big, and some of these wines we only have so much availability to produce them. So pretty cool stuff. Can't say enough good things about it. It's probably going to go quick. We will not be pouring these wines in the tasting room. So any of you that have the opportunity to get this expansion pack and try some of this product, I look forward to hearing from you, because I'm super excited about these wines. This is the future of venture in many ways, and it's what personally gets me excited when it kind of comes to progressive winemaking. So I'm trying to be as short and sweet as possible. I know this was a bit of a long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed those tasting notes. Of course, if you have any questions, anything for us, feel free to reach out. We love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. Check it all out. See ya.